the Ellen situation.
Yeah.
You know, people found out that Ellen was mean, and all these people came out and said, Ellen's actually a and everybody, whoa,
Yeah.
can't believe it. And she lost everything. She fell apart, disappeared, because people found out that this character that she was portraying in a half an hour on a television show is not really who she was. My buddy Greg, who was one of her writers, was like, she's a piece of shit. And he was like, she's a fucking monster.
What happens when Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly join forces? The result is explosive. And their latest discussion might completely change how you see Ellen DeGeneres. For years, she's been known for her bright smile, humor, and unforgettable dance moves. But now, a different side of the story is coming into focus. One that's raising serious questions and sparking intense conversation. Nothing is held back. From surprising claims to uncomfortable moments, this conversation dives deep into the contrast between public image and behind-the-scenes reality. This isn't just another celebrity discussion. It's a raw and unfiltered look that challenges what fans thought they knew. The tension is real, the questions are bold, and the conversation is impossible to ignore. Get ready, because this story might just change your perspective.
It's like a beautiful name, Isis.
Ellen's rough.
Ellen is like an old...
But it's a rough one now.
It's a rough one now because she was running Abu Ghraib in the back of her show.
It led to article after article of people being like, Ellen's a bitch. Ellen is a nasty person.
Have you ever noticed how sometimes a public image feels too perfect? So polished, so endlessly kind, that it almost starts to feel unreal. That's exactly the conversation now surrounding Ellen DeGeneres. For years, she dominated daytime television as the face of positivity, the queen of be kind, winning hearts with her humor, warmth, and signature dance moves. To millions, she wasn't just a host, she was a symbol of kindness itself. But just when everything seemed picture perfect, two major media voices, Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, have stepped into the spotlight with a different perspective. They're not just revisiting the story, they're questioning it, looking beyond the polished image, digging deeper, and asking the kind of questions most people avoid. What really lies behind that carefully crafted smile? Because sometimes the truth isn't what it seems, and what comes next might completely change the way you see everything.
It's so weird when you see, like, a lot of people saying that someone who seems so nice is not nice at all.
She doesn't seem nice, but that's people have a very poor judge of character. She doesn't seem nice. It seems forced. People that are like that all the time, she doesn't seem nice. It's very forced. And whatever, you're allowed to be a bitch, right? You're allowed to be nasty to people. You're accomplished. You're a comedian. You did the whole thing. What you're not allowed to do is have a Guantanamo Bay situation in the backstage of your show where everybody's walking around afraid for their life, and it's like Abu Ghraib where they're hooked up to wires and they
Dogs
have like
around them.
If this story is already grabbing your attention, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Now, when voices like Joe Rogan, known for asking the questions others avoid, and Megyn Kelly, famous for cutting straight through the noise, come together, you know something big is about to unfold. What they've created is one of the most talked about media conversations in recent times. Their focus? Taking a closer look at Ellen DeGeneres and the image the world has come to know so well. What started as simple curiosity quickly turned into a deep and intense discussion, filled with surprising perspectives, uncomfortable questions, and moments that truly make you stop and think. If you believed that image was untouchable, this conversation might make you reconsider. Because when strong voices start digging deeper, the surface rarely stays the same, and what they uncover could change the entire narrative.
I have a question for you on this. This is perfect for you because I'm seeing this week that there is an attempted comeback by somebody who did not cross one of those fateful lines of the misstepping on their sacred cows of gender or race or sexuality.
Yeah.
But she was said to be a nasty biatch, and that's Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah.
So her show got canceled after she had this testy exchange with Dakota Johnson, where something happened where Dakota said, "Oh, I had this birthday party," and Ellen said, "Well, why didn't you invite me? You didn't invite me." And she said, like, "No, I did invite you, Ellen. That's not what happened." And Ellen had blown her off, and then tried to play the victim on the set with her. Anyway, it led to article after article of people being like, "Ellen's a bitch. Ellen is a nasty person."
Let's start with Joe Rogan, often described as someone who questions everything and filters nothing. His platform has become a place where mainstream narratives are constantly tested, and anything that feels overly polished tends to get attention fast. So when his focus shifted toward Ellen DeGeneres, long seen as the face of kindness and positivity, people immediately knew the conversation could take an unexpected turn. In typical Rogan fashion, it's not about surface impressions. It's about what doesn't quite add up beneath them. The contrast is what makes it interesting. The cheerful, always smiling public image versus the quieter conversations and rumors that have circulated around Hollywood for years. Rogan has a way of picking up on those inconsistencies, the moments where the story and the perception don't fully align. And once that curiosity kicks in, the discussion stops being ordinary and starts getting a lot more revealing.
All these staffers started to come out, not for nothing, but I know a guy, I know him very well, whose sister worked for her, who said, "You were not allowed to make eye contact with Ellen in the halls of that show. If you saw her, this is not a nice person." So she eventually got canceled, but now she's coming back. She's got a Netflix special. That's the right response.
Yeah.
She's got a Netflix special. And here's the capper. On the promo, and apparently there's now articles out about from people who have seen the preview, she plays the victim.
Joe Rogan didn't approach this like a tabloid story or a cheap headline grab. Instead, it felt more like a deep cultural breakdown, carefully unpacking a public image that had been built over decades. His discussion around Ellen DeGeneres wasn't focused on gossip. It was about examining how a carefully crafted persona can shape public perception over time. He referenced long circulating industry conversations and behind-the-scenes accounts that painted a more complicated picture than the one seen on screen. Instead of the usual image of constant positivity, a different narrative surfaced, one filled with tension, pressure, and a workplace dynamic that didn't always match the cheerful brand presented to the world. What made the conversation more intense was the contrast. The same figure known for promoting kindness and joy was now being viewed through a far more critical lens. But the discussion didn't stop at one individual. Rogan expanded the idea, pointing toward a much larger issue in entertainment culture, where warmth, morality, and positivity can sometimes become part of a carefully packaged brand. In that world, authenticity can get blurred with performance, and public image becomes a product rather than a reflection of reality. The deeper question becomes unavoidable. What happens when being kind is not just a personality trait, but part of the act itself?
Have they made progress with the strike?
They're picketing right now, so I think it's the early stages. I would think it might take a little bit with this one.
When someone crosses the rider strike, that's some dirty shit. They cross the picket line.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody doing that yet.
I think Ellen did. I had a buddy of mine who was writing on Ellen. Everybody kind of knows now what she's really all about. And that's another one of those. Like, I'm so nice and I'm so sweet. Being behind the scenes.
If Joe Rogan set the stage, then Megyn Kelly took the conversation to an entirely different level. Coming from a sharp investigative background, she didn't focus on celebrity gossip or surface-level drama. Instead, she shifted attention to the structure behind the spotlight. Her angle was clear, not just the public image of Ellen DeGeneres, but the system built around it, the production, the decisions, and the environment that supported the brand. Rather than soft narratives or polished interviews, she explored reports and claims tied to workplace experiences, internal pressure, and behind-the-scenes dynamics. What emerged was a contrast between two worlds: the cheerful, be kind message presented to audiences, and a far more demanding reality described by some former insiders. According to the discussion, the atmosphere behind the cameras was not always aligned with the warmth seen on screen. Instead, it was portrayed as fast-paced, high-pressure, and heavily performance-driven. Kelly highlighted how concerns and complaints reportedly surfaced over time, raising questions about how they were handled within the broader organization. The result was a stark disconnect between image and experience, one that reframed the entire conversation around the brand. And in that contrast lies the bigger takeaway. Sometimes the most polished public image hides the most complicated reality underneath.
And she says, for me, and she actually has the nerve to say that she was run out of Hollywood. This person
with $100 million in her pocket.
450 million, according to Forbes. That's a low estimate.
Yeah.
Because so now she's out there saying, I was run out of Hollywood. She's actually reportedly complaining about how hard it is for women in America with the double standards.
Look at Oprah, how hard it is for her.
Oh, she's got, like 10 houses, Ellen DeGeneres?
Michelle Obama, look how hard it is for women in America. They're hurting.
They're going to let her back in, Rob, because she's a lesbian, she's a leftist, and she didn't hit one of their sacred cows.
Megyn Kelly didn't just question the public image of Ellen DeGeneres. She widened the lens to the entire media ecosystem that helped sustain it. Her critique went beyond one personality. She pointed toward how mainstream coverage often protects uplifting narratives, sometimes avoiding deeper scrutiny when a story becomes too popular or too positive. Instead of preserving that polished image, she highlighted the contradictions that many discussions tend to overlook, bringing uncomfortable details into a more direct conversation. When combined with the perspective of Joe Rogan, the result becomes a powerful contrast. One voice breaking down cultural perception, the other examining the system behind it. It's not framed as personal attack or sensational drama, but as a deeper look at how narratives are built, maintained, and consumed. Together, these viewpoints reshape how the conversation is understood, moving it away from simple celebrity storytelling and towards something more analytical. And the bigger takeaway goes far beyond any single name. It reflects how easily audiences can adopt polished public narratives without questioning what exists behind them. Because in the world of fame and media, what looks effortless and perfect is often far more complex beneath the surface. And recognizing that gap changes how we see every story that follows.
Look at it.
Oh, well, you know where that is too, right? The similar image to that, right?
No.
I know Jamie does.
What is it?
It's on the set of a famous talk show that's now not on anymore.
Oh, Ellen? Was that Ellen?
Yeah.
Really?
But just look at the temple and then look at the...
Let me see Ellen's background.
To be clear, this wasn't about a petty takedown or creating controversy for attention. The way Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly approached the conversation felt more like pulling back the curtain on a carefully crafted performance. The shine was there, but so were the layers underneath it that most people never see. Their combined perspective wasn't driven by outrage. It was more like that honest voice that makes you pause mid-belief and ask, wait, does this really add up? And that kind of truth doesn't always feel comfortable. It surprises you, it challenges you, and at the same time, it feels very human. So where does that leave Ellen DeGeneres? The once unshakable be kind image now feels more complicated. Less like a perfect symbol and more like a public story being re-examined from every angle. Audiences may now look at the familiar smiles, the iconic moments, and the polished TV persona with a more questioning eye. And beyond one person, the bigger message becomes harder to ignore. A brand built on kindness isn't automatically protected from scrutiny. A slogan, no matter how powerful, can't replace reality when questions start to surface. What makes this moment stand out is not loud confrontation or public drama. It's the impact created without it. No viral fights, no staged arguments, just careful breakdowns, pointed questions, and the willingness to say what others often avoid. In today's world where noise usually wins over substance, that quiet, precise approach might be the most powerful statement of all.
Let her back in, Rob, because she's a lesbian, she's a leftist, and she didn't hit one of their sacred cows. Nastiness, that's their bread and butter.
Well, I think everyone, I will say, like, the resentment, I think everyone should have a chance for reconciliation. I don't think Jesus exempted anybody. And so I do, while it does, because I have been allowed back in, but I don't hold any grievance and resentment. It's very important. And I would just say for Ellen, the resentment, you have to know, you have to get over resentment to whatever addiction or addictive qualities happen, to get over it.
Here's the real turning point in the Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly discussion around Ellen DeGeneres, and it goes far beyond simple celebrity commentary. When two voices from completely different media worlds collide like this, the impact isn't just conversation. It breaks through the usual echo chambers where celebrity narratives are either unquestioned or quietly avoided. On one side, Rogan, known for long-form, unfiltered conversations and a deep skepticism toward polished public images. He challenges narratives that feel overly controlled, always asking what's underneath the surface. On the other, Kelly, sharp, structured, and investigative, bringing a more traditional journalistic lens, focusing on documented claims, workplace accounts, and the systems behind public-facing brands. Put those two approaches together, and the effect is powerful. Rogan questions the cultural image, the branding, and the carefully managed perception. Kelly examines the operational side, reports, internal perspectives, and the gap between public messaging and private experiences. It's not about creating drama. It's about breaking down how narratives are built and maintained in modern celebrity culture. And when that happens, the conversation shifts from one individual story to a much larger question about fame, image, and accountability in the media world. Because once those layers are pulled back, you don't just see the story differently. You start questioning how every public image is constructed in the first place.
Stephen Paddock, and do not ask me for sources, but Stephen Paddock.
Who's that?
He was the guy that shot up the Vegas concert. That was a very tragic thing. Listen to this. The only guy that saw Stephen Paddock alive, his name is Jesus Campos. He was a guard at Mandalay Bay. He got interviewed nowhere else. You know where he got interviewed? In the beginning? Ellen.
Really?
Weird. And then they went on, if you could find that clip, they went on with a weird diagram of how it happened, and Ellen's showing the people how it happened. Not like an emotional, how are you feeling, how are you holding up? It was a weird diagram of and then he went to the left and to the right. It was very strange to, look, what the hell's going on? This is a daytime show.
Together, Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly have created something bigger than just commentary. They've sparked a kind of feedback loop that challenges the way celebrity culture is consumed. And that matters more than it first appears. Because audiences today are no longer passive. They're questioning what they're shown, especially when it comes to public figures like Ellen DeGeneres and the carefully built images surrounding them. Instead of accepting polished narratives at face value, people are starting to ask tougher questions. How much of what we see is real, and how much is carefully produced PR? Is the kindness we're sold truly authentic, or part of a larger branding strategy designed for the spotlight? This shift is bigger than any single celebrity. It reflects a wider change in how fame itself is understood. The idea of flawless public icons is starting to feel outdated. Audiences are now drawn to complexity, real stories, real flaws, and realities that exist beyond the stage lights. When a message like "be kind" becomes part of a brand identity, people begin to separate inspiration from marketing, and that changes how it's received. What's even more interesting is how this conversation is unfolding. Just scroll. And that might be the most powerful shift of all, a move away from celebrity drama and toward deeper questions about truth, image, and authenticity in a world driven by perception.
Lesbian,
that should tell you
uniform.
something.
Yeah.
Like, that's an odd look with all those buttons. Like, why do you have so many wrist buttons?
It was given to her in Langley.
The only reason why you have that many wrist buttons if you're looking at clothesline somebody.
Yeah, look at her. Look at her. Everyone says she looks so friendly. She looks friendly.
Yeah, she does look very military.
Yeah, she's a militant woman.
With a very expensive watch.
She dealt with a lot of discrimination when she came out. It was very sad, but then she joined the CIA.
Her house got broken into while she was at home.
Really?
Yeah. She got a dope place in Montecito.
And they broke in while she was there.
Yeah.
And those people are still being tortured to this day.
Probably.
They're still in an underground jail.
Instead of fueling petty public drama, Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly approached the conversation in a very different way, focused, sharp, and layered with nuance. Their impact wasn't built on outrage. It came from questioning narratives, highlighting contradictions, and pushing for clarity around high-profile public images like Ellen DeGeneres. And that's what made the discussion stand out. It wasn't cheap entertainment. It was a deeper breakdown of how public perception is shaped, maintained, and sometimes challenged. Looking ahead, this kind of scrutiny could create a ripple effect across the entire celebrity world. Fans who once accepted polished public images without question may start viewing other perfect personalities with a more critical eye, because once you begin to notice the gap between image and reality, it becomes harder to ignore. This moment could signal a shift in celebrity culture, where authenticity is no longer just a slogan, but an expectation. And that's where the pressure begins to build. When audiences grow tired of carefully crafted personas and start demanding realness, even the most established public brands can feel the impact. The combined influence of Rogan's counterculture questioning and Kelly's investigative breakdown doesn't just target one story. It challenges the entire system of celebrity storytelling. It pushes the conversation beyond drama and into something bigger: accountability, transparency, and truth behind the image. And in a world full of polished screens and curated perfection, that shift might be the most powerful change of all.
All people on earth to be feeling sorry for herself, Ellen DeGeneres should not be on the list.
She should at least, but make a real apology and do it.
There's no apology. It's just woe is me. I was run out of Hollywood as she speaks from this grandiose stage on Netflix. Hello, you haven't been canceled if you are doing a Netflix special. She got 20 million for the one before this. I'm sure she's fine.
At the end of the day, this entire discussion is less about one person and more about how modern fame actually works. When unexpected voices like Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly enter the conversation, they don't just add noise, they force attention onto the gap between image and reality. And in that process, public figures like Ellen DeGeneres become part of a much larger cultural reflection. If reputations shift along the way, it speaks to something bigger: how quickly audiences are now questioning long-held narratives built around celebrity perfection. Because progress in media often comes from discomfort. When polished stories are stripped back and examined more closely, even if the result challenges what people once believed. And that's the real takeaway here. In a world driven by image, truth has a way of surfacing, especially when scrutiny replaces blind admiration. So the next time a public figure promotes kindness, success, or perfection on a big stage, it's worth remembering that every image has layers behind it. Sometimes those layers reinforce the story, and sometimes they completely change it. And in today's media world, authenticity isn't just valuable anymore, it's expected.